Hello, and welcome to A Fine Time for Healing, a place where your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being are all that matter. I'm your host, Randi Fine, also a narcissistic abuse expert. You know, every adult child of narcissistic abuse well relates to the dysfunctional pattern of behavior exhibited by a narcissistic parent at the Christmas family dinner table, or really any holiday dinner table. The position or role they play in the family causes each family member to be triggered in a specific way. When buttons are pushed and reactions are unfiltered, the supposedly joyous family celebration becomes one of chaos and pain. Meanwhile, the narcissistic parent plays the victim and the innocent. How many times have you been sucked into this scenario? How many family Christmas dinners have you attended hoping that this year will be different, only to find that it never is? Today's special guest, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist Christiana Davidson, will be exploring the unique dynamic of this all too painful but familiar scenario. She will be offering advice on how to navigate it, manage it, or perhaps avoid it. Christiana Davidson is a psychotherapy, hypnotherapy specialist based in London, UK, who helps adult children of narcissistic parents be free to live their lives with purpose and passion, with a particular interest in the effects of narcissistic parenting, attachment, and codependency. She is a member of the British Association for Counseling and Psychotherapy. Christy is available for online therapy internationally. For more information, you can email her at christiana@psychologicalhealingcenter.com. Well, it's not necessarily good morning, but welcome, Christy.
Thank you, Randi. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, it's so fun.
Thank you for having me on your show.
My pleasure. I know that this is your specialty, and I think we're going to have some fun with this, because while this is triggering for many people, it's also, if you stand on the outside and look in, it's quite humorous. So let's talk about what happens maybe before the dinner even starts. So what do you think? And I think we're going to focus more on the mother, because we have to pick one parent. We'll mention briefly the father, but I think we need to focus more on the mother because she's a lot more fun. All right. So what happens before the dinner even starts? Because we know that there's always a buildup.
Yes, I mean, the word Christmas with a narcissistic mother already evokes feelings of dread in the adult children themselves. I mean, the narcissistic mother, this is the kind of highlight of the year for her. It's the time when she can really wield the most sort of manipulation throughout the year, and she makes sure that even if you're not spending Christmas with her and you've told her that, somehow she's going to meddle in your Christmas celebration. Often what happens is, I find before Christmas, the narcissistic mother particularly will try to catch the adult child off guard about their preparations or their plans for the Christmas celebration. So she might sort of out of the blue, maybe 3-4 months before the time, just say, oh, what are your plans this year for Christmas? What are we doing this year? That's one of the tactics, is to catch the adult child off guard, so they're caught flustering, and then feeling obliged to include the narcissistic mother in their celebration. And often, for the adult child, it's going against their will. Christmas is meant to be something we really look forward to, that we celebrate with those that we love and that we feel safe with and that we exchange gifts with from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, when you have a narcissistic mother, there's a real sense of it being an obligation, something that you have to do. And that, quite frankly, is not something you look forward to. And for adult children, they don't look forward to spending time, especially tense time, with their narcissistic mothers.
Yes, there is a sense of dread and obligation. And so the adult children are already put on edge. They're already, before anything even starts, they're already tense. So if the narcissist is the dad, he may not show any interest, but he also may say, oh, I just want to watch the football game today, or he might start drinking early and be drunk by the time the guests get there, or they sit at the table. He may say to his wife, don't get me the same kind of present you got me last year, okay? I don't want that. Or he may make fun of the children, or sort of cut into the children by saying something like, I hope your son doesn't bring that floozy of a girlfriend over here again. Or he might say, I hope your daughter is going to keep her nasty mouth shut. So something very cutting like that. But that's briefly mentioning the father. But okay, so mom's in the kitchen. What's happening?
So, and excuse me referring to my notes here a little bit from time to time.
That's okay.
But yes, you see, I think the object of the narcissist, mother or father, is to spoil it from the word go, to stamp their imprint on your Christmas from the word go, so that it no longer belongs to you. The focus is always on them, mother or father, to be honest. But the narcissistic mother has, some really, like you said earlier, some quite comical ways of assuring that attention is always on her. This is her Christmas, and it's your role to make sure that you don't disappoint her, because she's put so much effort into it, whether she's coming around your house or whether you're going to hers. You need to make sure that you are listening out for her needs, and that your focus is constantly on making her Christmas something special with the family, as it should be.
You are
so there's a sense of tension for all members of the family long before the Christmas meal comes around. Everyone's wondering, oh, I hope it will be okay this year. It might be. Let's hope, let's hope mum doesn't spoil it. And there's stress from the moment of arrival. It won't be good enough, if mum doesn't have those little sausages this year that you were asked to bring, and you were meant to get them, and you feel terrible that they'd run out by the time you got to the store. And mum is quite clear at the disappointment that there were none left. Did you not go and collect them earlier in advance, like she did with all the other things? Oh, that's such a pity. I do like those special herbed sausages. And so already there's a sense of deflation in the celebration. And the thing is, you've been blamed for it. She's innocent.
Always.
The narcissistic parent loves everyone coming over to their house, especially, as then they can bask in the supply of serving others, when really they've manipulated it so that the family is serving them.
Good point.
So let's just imagine now we're in the narcissistic mother's home, and we've arrived, and there's been the disappointment in the sausages, but everyone's milling around, sort of thing. Mum's out in the kitchen, and quite often what will happen is, even though she's out of sight, and presumably therefore not the center of attention, she will make sure that she is. So there might be slams coming from the kitchen, or there might be huffing and puffing, or, barking of orders. Can someone come and help me with this? Or, shouting to the husband, have you made sure that the decorations are up in the lounge or whatever? But there's a sense of, everyone being on edge and hoping that everything's going to come together, and that mum will be able to cope with it all. And everyone's absorbing this toxic energy. So what should be a lovely kind of, let's just go with the flow, it's lovely to see you. Yeah, come and sit down, and the smell of the roast on already. And no, not in the narcissistic household. It's stress and tension to the max from the start. The narcissistic husband may be emasculated for his lack of having bought the correct spice or set the oven to the correct temperature. And the narcissistic mother will ensure that if things do go wrong, it's absolutely someone else's fault. If she burns something, then it's because no one else is helping her, or she was distracted by your conversation. Right. And now you've spoiled her sprouts and her Christmas.
I think that in these scenarios, the adult children are suddenly put back into their childhood roles. And what's interesting is that the mother cannot relate to them any other way. And so she has to get them back into that subservient kind of space.
Yes, absolutely. So it's very subtle, this sometimes, she might say, come out from the kitchen and call her daughter, who's now married, got her own children, etc. But she'll call her daughter over and say, Sarah, can I ask you to lay the table, please? Yes, and to put the napkins on the left. Or, and what she's doing is, the daughter might be feeling, oh God, yes, I know where to put the napkins. There's a bit of sort of infantilizing. So it's keeping the child in the role of child, which is such a common tactic of the narcissist. It's that one-upping, especially the narcissistic mother, one-upping and making sure that she's the one that's dominant and in command. Now, if the mother was visiting your house, perhaps, and you're in the kitchen cooking and, I don't know, getting the roast potatoes on, or whatever you're doing, it wouldn't surprise me if the narcissistic mother would come out to the kitchen and sort of, almost peer over your shoulder at what you're doing, and just stand there for a bit, waiting for even a bodily reaction from you, because that is a bit of a supply source for her, to see you squirm a little bit or be a bit on edge, that she's inspecting what you're doing. And there might be a remark, sort of, oh, how are you preparing the potatoes this year? What are you doing the usual glazed ones that we always have? I do love those. And of course, if you're not, you've got to justify yourself, and the adult child might be caught defending her choice of, plain potatoes this year with a, I don't know what dressing.
Oh gosh.
But there's and this is one of the things about Christmas with narcissists. It's almost like it's a show, and everyone's got to be part of this show, keeping up. The show must go on, sort of thing. It's according to societal expectations, and those expectations are the narcissist expectations. Right. So this is how we do things. We need to eat at this time because we've got to do that at that time. And the reason we do that at that time is because, well, the rest of the country is doing the same thing. Like here in England, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when the Queen traditionally gives a speech to the nation. And for a narcissistic mother, that's very important, that the meal is finished by then, so that we can all sit and we can stand and cheers the Queen, and there's a stress on the meal then, that it's got to be on the table by 1 o'clock so that we're finished by 3. And if it's not, it's, come on, everyone, get a move on. And everyone's got to do what the narcissistic mother wants at the time she wants, because it's her day.
Yeah, it is her day. So Christmas dinner is really not about everybody enjoying each other's company. It's all about image and control. So that is why it is so uncomfortable for everybody to be there. So let's say that the mother starts with a toast or a prayer. Let's start with that. So how would that go down?
Yes, so let's move on to the dinner now. So everyone's seated around the table after having endured the build-up. Before you can begin serving up or anything like that, the narcissistic mother may choose that opportunity to assert their control over things even more. Now, you see, the narcissist is very subtle in their communication style. So a lot of it can be verbal or non-verbal communication. So there might be sort of dirty looks thrown across the table when somebody's about to dig into something, or oh gosh, glances at, oh gosh, what are you doing? We don't do that now. Almost sort of shaming people for not knowing how to behave properly. So starting with a toast is aimed at asserting control, but it's also about getting an emotional reaction from those around the table. So the narcissist may do something like recall family members who died, who the narcissist really misses and knows that the other family missed too.
Or thinks that the other family member misses them.
Absolutely. They might just touch on, just to get a bit of an emotional reaction there, to show the great empathy that the narcissist has, and how they're willing to, put their food on one side and focus on the really important thing, which is the family first. And then there may also be, if it's a religious family, say it's a Christian family, the children were brought up Christian, they're now adults and have maybe moved away from the faith, and the narcissistic mother knows this, but there's no way she's letting them get away with that at her Christmas dinner. And so she'll begin with a prayer.
Yeah. And so let's say, if there's a scapegoat child there, the scapegoat child, upon hearing this prayer, because they're always stirring up trouble, might say to the mother, why are you always bringing religion into everything? And then that's an opportunity for the golden child to pipe up and say, why can't you ever go along with things for the sake of a peaceful holiday? You're always trying to create drama. And then the father's there, he's saying it to enable the mother, he's saying, stop it, girls, you're upsetting your mother. So already everybody is on edge, because the scapegoat child is already aggravated, and so it just takes a little something for them to act up. And then of course the whole ball starts rolling through the family, right?
And that's exactly what the narcissist wants. She wants these little bickerings, these little skirmishes, the husband stepping in, because it's all the focus is on her again, and it's done in a way to make her look like the innocent one, and the good, kind-hearted one that wants to bring everyone's focus onto the real meaning of the day, when really we know that the real meaning for the narcissist is herself.
Yes.
And her needs and getting her supply.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes she may reminisce something like, when I was young, I never got presents. I mean, you should be so grateful for what you have. I never got presents. And she creates a narrative that fits her victimization and her martyrdom. So what other kind of things would be happening?
Well, I mean, if we move to the part now, we've had the prayer or the cheers at the start, then everyone's able to dish up their food. And this is a moment of tension too, there's an awareness that the narcissistic mother is keeping tabs on what everyone's taking, or is just aware of it, so if you're taking, I don't know, a helping of something that's not big, she might comment on that and say, oh, perhaps some more of that. You really like, the cranberry sauce or whatever it is, make sure you have more of that. Or there might be a shaming remark, oh gosh, save some for someone else. Which is a subtle put down, and often towards the scapegoat child, I would imagine. So there's tension dishing up. And also, as many people these days have their own special diets, and, we don't all eat the same things anymore. The narcissistic mother would take that quite personally as, their child displaying even more independence from her, which is something she does not like. I mean, it's a display of assertiveness, and that never really goes down very well with a narcissistic mother. She may comment on that and say, oh gosh, you're always on some, I don't know, health kick. Is it helping? Or
it doesn't look like it's helping.
Yes, exactly.
Right. I don't know why you're doing this. You look the same to me, or you're gaining weight. You're trying to lose weight, and it seems as if you're gaining weight.
Yes, but if it's working for you, it's just a shame. She said things like, it's just a shame you can't, have what you like, because I know you like these. So there's a real sense also of in some ways being criticized for having your own choices, because that doesn't suit the narcissist. That's not putting her first. You should be adapting your choices to keep her
happy,
comfortable.
Yes. I've been at the table where like my sister would just like crack a joke, and then I would start laughing, and my mother would be staring across the table and saying, what is so funny? Or my sister might whisper something in my ear, and she's like, oh, we're telling secrets now, or something like that, so she's watching, and nobody's allowed to have fun at this table, right?
No, it's not. She doesn't mind having fun as long as she's still the focus of the, so if she's been able to tell the joke, or everyone's including her in it first, focusing it on towards her, so that she's the only audience, then she's okay with it a bit. But she doesn't like it when somebody else puts themselves suddenly in the limelight. So that sort of attention has got to be nipped in the bud, and everyone's got to refocus on her, even if it means bringing the mood down around the table. That's still for her way of being the dominant one, because then everyone's thinking, oh gosh, what must I do now to bring the mood back up?
That's so true. That's so true. So what about, so I could imagine, the mother wanting everybody to be drinking more because it'll loosen their boundaries and she can have more control. And, she may look at the golden child and say, oh, but you don't drink. And the scapegoat child says, I think she does. I think she does. I don't think you're seeing this correctly. And then the mother says, oh no, she doesn't do things like that, right? I could see that scenario, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the scapegoat kind of going, well, trust me, she does. And there being that awkward kind of awkward tension and silence that falls, because the narcissistic mother will not allow the image of the extension of her to be tarnished by anyone, which is the golden child. She's quite happy for the scapegoat to, have a reputation of drinking a bit more because, well, what do we expect? But for the golden child, no, there's this sort of glorified image that is actually the image that she has of herself. So when you suggest that the golden child likes to have a drink, you're actually suggesting to the narcissist mother that she likes to drink, and how dare you do such a thing,
Even if she's drinking, even if she's...
Well, absolutely. She's already half sloshed.
That's funny.
And one of my clients recently, this is a very bizarre thing. Well, maybe not so bizarre. She mentioned how at the Christmas dinner table, she'd noticed her narcissistic mother last year had, she'd waited for my client to dish up. And she'd almost followed my client around the table as she dished up the different bits. But she was insistent that my client go first because she would copy what amounts of things my client would take, so that she wasn't losing the competition or taking more and feeling less than somehow. So there was even in the dishing up, there was this subtle power game and tension going on that left my client almost unable to digest anything. So the subtleties here of this dynamic around the table, to think of the family trying to enjoy the meal and digest things, it's almost impossible in a situation like that. So no wonder the family members may be having another drink. Thank God for turkey. If you're having turkey, it's got some tryptophan in it, which is, it kind of helps to calm everyone down and make you drowsy. I think you would need it in that situation. So the whole family here is sort of unable to really enjoy the meal, and they're probably thinking, I can't wait for this to be over. Or what happens is people just think, I'm just gonna eat and stuff all these tense, awful, uncomfortable feelings down. Let's just eat and eat so that we can pass out afterwards.
And meanwhile, the father is saying nothing and just drinking, right? He's not commenting on anything. He just doesn't want to deal with this, and he wants to zone out, right?
Exactly. And actually, for the narcissistic family, dealing with emotions has never been part of the family. And especially at Christmas, it becomes apparent that there is no actual real connection. There's no real healthy bonds in the family. And so
right, but there's the mother wants the illusion that there is, and so everyone has the illusion, but they don't really feel it, do they?
No, not at all. So there's a real, it's almost like an underlying, I think, sadness around the table that needs to be either drowned out or stuffed down, somehow disconnected from, because the charade becomes more apparent as the day wears on.
So true. Wow. And and for those who are watching this, I'm sure this is so relatable. And maybe you've wondered why you dread these days. And maybe you've never really taken it apart. But if you think about really the dynamics that are going on while you're there, which Christy is actually bringing up and illuminating for us, it helps you to understand why it's so tense. So is there anything else that you would say about what goes on while they're eating?
I guess only in that, actually once the members start eating and they've all dished up and all of that's over, there can be a momentary relief. Everyone's got some food in their mouths. There might be a bit of a hush around the table, and there is a bit of a calm just for a moment. But the thing is, it's an uneasy calm, because we're just waiting for some family member, more than likely the narcissistic mother perhaps, or the scapegoat, to say something that's going to rock the boat yet again. So the narcissistic mother might, bring up an inappropriate topic. I don't know, about politics or religion or the marriage, your marriage, or, something like that, that's just going to once again create tension and make her the focus again, and make the other members uncomfortable so that they can't even enjoy their meal.
It's so amazing how, excuse me, how subtle the behavior can be from the narcissistic mother, and yet it could be a glance, it could be a tone of voice, and everybody goes back to the old pattern. It's very difficult to resist that.
It is, because I think underneath it all, I think what the narcissistic mother wants, she wants everyone always to empathize with her, because that's what she didn't get when she was a child. And so now everyone in her life is to empathize with her, because somehow that's making up for the wounds that she has, that she has totally cut off from.
And she can even justify her behavior based on that, based on, well, Christmas for me every year was, my father pulled out the belt afterwards or something. It bad memories, whatever the memories might be. And so it justifies her bringing everybody else down.
Absolutely. And, there's no empathy for anybody else around that table. There's no empathy. And really, I mean, that is what the spirit of Christmas is all about, really, is having empathy for others. Empathy is love, sharing love, and, wanting to reconnect with those that we really love. But for the narcissistic mother, there is no love, ultimately.
And they pretty much assure that not only is there no love from her, but there's no love between the family members, because she has triangulated everybody, and everybody is glaring at everybody else and judging, and also vying for the crumbs that the mother may give.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess that kind of, in some ways, concludes the meal itself. So everyone's eaten, probably to the maximum, or has not been able to digest anything and is feeling unable to eat, and maybe has had a couple to drink, which is exactly what the narcissistic mother wants. She wants people's boundaries to be a little bit loosened. She wants them to be, she insists that they be comfortable and relax now, after the meal, because she knows that when you've had a bit of alcohol or anything like that, she might be more able to sort of ask inappropriate questions of you or test your boundaries a bit more.
That's right.
And it can feel quite uncomfortable, this next part now, because there's no distraction hereafter of the meal. Now we've got to get up from the table, and what do? I've got to sit down and relax with my narcissistic family, my narcissistic mother.
That's so funny.
Oh my goodness, and it can actually be even worse at this point in the day, because now you've got to try to connect, and you probably won't want to. In fact, you're probably thinking by this point, gosh, when are we going to be able to leave?
Where everybody's on their phone trying to look at
Yes,
something else but each other, right?
exactly. So this time after the meal is kind of another key moment for the narcissistic mother now to come in, and sort of assert themselves, because she'll notice that you might feel a bit awkward and uncomfortable, and this for her is actually a source of supply. She doesn't mind seeing that at all, because it shows that she's still got the power to influence you. And the narcissist may sort of shame you or act disappointed when you're not willing to engage in emotional conversations with her.
Right.
And so she might
and I can
she might
imagine
ask,
like I could imagine something like her saying to the scapegoat child who now has a very prominent job and is making money. So how is your job? With a question in the voice. It must be very stressful for you, And then the scapegoat child says, well, no, as a matter of fact, I really like my job. And then they begin defending themselves. And it's that typical trap where the more they defend themselves, the worse it gets. And she's looking at them thinking, I think I'm right, But then she might look over at the golden child and she might say, so yeah, I know you've been very happy at your job. And that's wonderful.
You've been there years. Yeah. Yes, it's fascinating that they can send arrows out, couched in care.
Yes.
Oh gosh, so yes, you've got another new job. Oh gosh, well, it sounds like it's really quite involved for you. Yeah. And are you okay in it? How are you managing with the children and all of that as well? Oh gosh, well, I hope it's okay. I hope you do find your feet. And so it's all this kind of, you can pick up the energy from it, that it's not actually a kind, caring concern. In fact, it's a moment where she's able to try to get you to doubt yourself. And having grown up with a narcissistic mother, people will know that there is a strong tendency to doubt oneself, because that's been instilled from childhood.
Right. And we don't want to show that, but inside we're miserable. We're just feeling miserable from this kind of put down. And it's so apparent, the way she treats the golden child and the scapegoat child, how different they are treated. And as she's treating them separately, it's creating animosity between them. And so the golden child is feeling very uppity and the other child is feeling self-doubt, but it doesn't come out that way, does it? They're not going to show that.
No, not at all. And that's the pity of these households, because often the siblings they miss out sometimes on having, a healthy brother-sister relationship, which can be so life-giving. But there's constantly then this competitiveness that's put in place. Even the scapegoat is in some ways in their defensiveness is trying to keep up the facade of, I'm absolutely fine, I'm doing brilliantly, everything's fine. And the golden child doesn't have to defend themselves, but is being told they're doing absolutely perfectly and everything's fine. So they've got to keep it up as well.
And that's a lot of pressure.
Absolutely.
On both sides. On both sides. So where does that leave us now? So we had dinner. We've now relaxed.
Yes, relaxed. Well, there's still the table to clear and things to be put away, and so there's two different sort of ways of the narcissistic mother responding to this part of the day. Some narcissistic mothers like to only do the fun things. So when I say fun things, I mean like, even cooking can be fun, and getting it ready and doing all the dishes involved in that. But when it comes to the things like clearing up all the leftovers and, picking up the stuff on the floor, or they don't want to do that. So what you might often find that it falls on the husband's hands to go out and clean everything up and then put everything away. Or the narcissistic mother will be in full control at this point. So it'll be, oh no, please, just careful with those glasses, because we've had them, since grandma gave them to us. And oh, Sarah, can you just get the proper pan to put in that cupboard there? No, that doesn't go there. Can you? And there's a sense here of sort of wanting people to help, but not wanting them, telling them that she doesn't want them to help because they're not doing it correctly.
Right. And
so nothing you do is good enough.
Right. And what that does is it creates tension in everybody, and they do things like break glasses and plates and things like that, and drop things because they're feeling so uptight over this just toxic energy. Or like, I can remember my mother saying, don't put those wine glasses in the dishwasher. They don't go in the dishwasher. And then like my sister, who was a scapegoat, going, you always put the wine glasses in the dishwasher. And she goes, no, I don't. That's your father. So then he gets, so it's gaslighting at the same time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about it as well, when it comes to the tidying up part, the golden child might be the first to kind of jump in and, oh yes, let's do this because it will help mum and it'll help to keep mum happy, which is the aim of the game really here.
Right.
And the narcissistic mother might actually sort of encourage that and say, oh darling, you know, you're always so good at this, you know, you're, gosh, aren't you a good daughter, you know, thank you so much. But what she's doing there is she's getting you to do her bidding, not her bidding, but she's getting you to serve her.
So true.
And keep in your role of golden child.
Right, absolutely. And as the golden child, you're the pleaser, and that's your job. Like you said, you know, to keep mother happy. That is your job. And
so it might be that, you know, around the Christmas dinner table this year, you might be able to observe this a bit more, actually, these sort of more subtle dynamics, but also your own reactions, your own instinctive sort of jumping at the dirty look of the mother to put things right, or the natural inclination to constantly be checking in on mum, you know, even just looking, is she okay, or you know, filling up her glass, or you know, making sure, checking in on her in the kitchen, is everything okay in here, mum, you know,
right, trying to anticipate her needs.
Yes, absolutely. And then you might find yourself even being a bit annoyed if you are the golden child with the scapegoat sibling, you know, well, can't you almost, you know, getting a bit resentful at their lack of cooperation in keeping mum happy, you know, at different junctures. So that, I think that kind of brings together the whole of the family meal. We've got the last part now, which is sort of saying, you know, the end of it and leaving. But really, I think the whole of the meal, the whole of the afternoon is really about putting on a show, about keeping up appearances. And it's also the subtle message that comes through from the narcissistic mother or father that you belong to this family and you can't escape. This is you can't escape this, and that's a really difficult thing to sit with for an adult child, because their gut may be telling them, I don't want nothing more to do with these people. I never want to spend another Christmas like this. But on the other hand, they're thinking, well, what choice do I have? I belong to this family.
Right. This is my family. Right.
I cannot escape.
Yes. What a dreadful feeling. And yeah, I mean, so you were saying that at like 3 o'clock,
yes,
the queen speaks, you know, and I can just imagine the scapegoat child going, again, the queen says the same thing every year, and the mother's going, we need to be a proper family. This is what proper families do, right?
Of course, we're going to stand with every other family in the country at this time, you know, gosh, of course we're going to do that, you know, gosh, heaven, of course we would, heaven forbid we didn't, you know, it's what you do. And I think that's the difficulty with these mothers, you know, they have no core self. It's all about, what do we need to do to keep up the show? And it's exhausting. It is utterly exhausting. Instead of, you know, just allowing life to happen and, you know, having a sense of self to go to, the narcissist has to be controlling the outside.
I feel this, you know, in my solar plexus. I like feel the tension here because it's so familiar. These dynamics are so familiar. Amazingly familiar. Whether it's Christmas dinner or any other family kind of get together or holiday or anything like that, because it seems to be the same dynamic all the time. But Christmas brings with it a lot of expectations. And like we said in the beginning, even though there's been decades of miserable Christmases, everyone comes hoping this one will be better.
Yeah.
It never is.
No. And laced throughout the day is the mother's disappointment. You know that she will give you little moments of disappointment that keep you on your toes. You know, it's not a big disappointment, but it's a little disappointment just to make you, oh, step up, because you don't want to make the whole day a disappointment. So she might give you a glance of dissatisfaction, or just kind of shake her head at one point, or walk out of the room with a huff. So the whole of the day, although it's a lovely celebration, it's laced with these moments of disappointment that culminate in the leaving, actually. So when it comes to leaving, the narcissist will look disappointed at you leaving so soon, regardless of the time. They'll turn on the guilt and remind you subtly that you are ruining their Christmas for them and making it sad. They yearn for you to stay with them as you did as a little child, in whatever role you were in, so that they will feel loved again. They miss having their adoring children around, who were like toys to play with every day, who didn't demand anything and did what they were told, and did what the narcissist wanted without complaining.
That's right.
She could use them whenever she wanted and had complete dominion over them. But now that they're adults, they are rejecting her and not cooperating with all her attempts to reinstate the status quo, and this is infuriating to her. And really, for the narcissist, that's what she's ultimately longing for, is to have those children back as toddlers, where they are completely manipulable and adoring of her. And anything that threatens that now as adults, she can't cope with. And it will be met with disappointment. But you see, she's rounding the day off here with guilt.
Yes. That maybe they didn't do what they needed to do to make mom happy. Because it's the job of the family. It's especially the job of the golden child. But everybody in the family knows that if they don't try to keep the peace and make mom happy, their lives are miserable.
Exactly. And it also sets up preparations for next Christmas.
And people say to me, before Christmas, I know there's a lot of information out there about whether or not to go, how to navigate the process, whether you stay, whether you bow out. There's a lot of information there, and I think we probably skipped over that because there's so much of that out there. This is more about the dynamics between the people, which I think is relatable to everyone and helps them to see, like you said, maybe this time they will observe, maybe this time they will see what's actually being done. They'll sit back, and just watch the dynamics. And so this is really educating for people. This is great.
Yes, it's surprising how relatable these things are, these dynamics, to most. I mean, if you've had a narcissistic parent, it. And because the characteristics of a narcissist are generally the same, the lacking in empathy, the needing to get supply, the focus on the self, all of these things are generic. it plays out, especially at these family gatherings.
Yes.
And particularly, like you say, at Christmas, where from a Christian perspective, the focus is meant to be on the true God. But as we know, in a narcissistic household, God is not God. God is the narcissistic parent.
Yes.
God is channeled through the narcissistic parent.
Yes, it is. Wow. Great analogy. So how do we sum all this up?
I think for the adult child of a family like this is to remember that actually this is not a healthy family. This is not really a family. It's a pretend family.
Yes.
That you're going to have Christmas with, or that's coming to you. And to have no expectations of having a sense of family, real family, as a result of having Christmas with them. And I think that requires a bit of preparation beforehand. It's almost like a letting go of any rising emotions that you may be having before Christmas, thinking, oh, it would be lovely just to sit next to mum and have a cup of tea and chat. And it's almost letting go of those desires.
Yes.
And preparing oneself to be an observer.
Yes.
And then, all the other sort of tips that are out there, putting boundaries around your time, because you need to be the parent, the good parent for yourself in this situation.
Right.
So how can you best take care of yourself? What do you need to navigate this day? And it might be that you find you need to go out for outdoors for 5 minutes every hour, or you might need to make a fake phone call, or you might need these little moments of reprieve from that intensity of all being under one roof again.
Yes.
But it's never going to be easy.
No, it's never going to be easy. So is there anything else that we want to touch on? I mean, that's great advice for people to be able to get up and, maybe relieve themselves from time to time to break the tension. But also, I think that Christmas dinner, because it is so such a toxic place and you're so locked in.
Yes.
Sometimes you can just visit, drop off a present, and you don't have to stay for Christmas dinner. You can have an out. If you find that you just cannot handle that toxic environment, you have to make the choice about what you need. Because if one day with mom at Christmas is going to take 2 to 3 weeks to recover from.
Do you know, Randi, one of my clients, she tried to do just that. She thought, no, I'm not going to go around and spend Christmas with my mum and another family member this year. I've done it for the last 6 years. I'm just not doing it. So she said that to her mother, look, I'm not coming around this year, but I'll come around the day after Christmas. You have the meal and everything on Christmas Day, and we'll exchange gifts on Boxing Day, as it's called here, on the 26th. So my client goes round to her mum on the 26th, and what her mother has done is she simply postponed Christmas. So she moved the 25th celebrations to the 26th.
Wow.
And the daughter arrived to a roast turkey, everyone waiting to pull crackers, and it was there was no way the mother was going to let the daughter not be there. So yeah.
I had a client at one point prepare the whole dinner, invite everyone over, prepare the whole dinner. And then there was a knock at the door, and it was a meal delivery. The mother had ordered an entire Christmas meal to be delivered after the daughter had cooked the entire thing. So,
Oh, goodness.
I mean, talk about insulting.
Oh. It's very disrespectful, actually, isn't it? You see?
It is. Yes. I mean, there's so many underlying messages there. So, well, wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
Pleasure, Randi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us how we can get in touch with you. I know that you specialize in this work. You live in the UK, but you do therapy everywhere?
I do, yes. I work globally. If you'd like to get in contact with me personally, it's probably best to use my email, which is christiana@delightinyou.com. So that's christiana@delightinyou.com.
The word you or the letter U?
Oh, the letter U.
Oh, delight in you. Okay. .com.
Because that's where we want to get you to, is to delighting in yourself again.
Yes.
Because often that was lacking in childhood. The real you was never really seen. If you're the child of a narcissist.
So amazing. Well, thanks. It's been so much fun having you. I mean, like I said, in the beginning, there is a sense of humor to this. And I want people to be able to really look at it from that point of view, because it's too painful otherwise. So thank you for presenting it in a light that can make us all maybe laugh at this.
Yes, I think that's really important, to be able to laugh at it a bit.
Right.
And to sort of see the comical, unbelievable lengths that the narcissistic mother is willing to go to to maintain her
domain, her
yes. Her kingdom.
The kingdom of the queendom. Well, thank you again, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Randi.
Take care.
Thank you.